Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the QT2 Systems podcast on the, beginner triathlon. In this series, we're joined by veteran coaches, Jackie Miller and Eric Kahl. So collectively, they have worked with hundreds of people getting to the starting line of their first race. Jackie and Eric will share their insights on everything a beginner should know before lining up for their first triathlon. So far in this 5-part series, we've discussed race selection, equipment, and training. Now we're about a week out from the first race, and today we're going to focus on what that final week looks like, what the final prep looks like. And then when we come back for episode 5, we'll actually talk about race day. So welcome back, Jackie. Welcome back, Eric. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So our group has been out there. They've been training. I say, we're 11 weeks or so far, swimming, biking, and running. Now it's like, okay, race time is here. So, Jackie, I'm just going to start with you in terms of like logistics. A week out, what should our triathletes be thinking about to get themselves ready for the race?
Well, definitely, hopefully if they have been following a plan that week before the race, they've like cut down their training a bit or a lot. Maybe kept some intensity in, but definitely cut the volume down, cut the intensity down in length, but keep some in there. Make sure you have all of your race gear ready. Your bike should have been already tuned up. I usually recommend people taking their bike for a tune up about 2 weeks out and then giving it another test ride or two after they've gotten it back from the shop. Make sure you have your bike shoes, your run shoes, your sunglasses, your helmet, everything's in working order, and laid out, ready to go. If you're planning on using any nutrition on race day, make sure that's ready to go. And it's a good idea, like if you live locally to the course you're gonna be training on, to if you haven't already, just do a little bit of course recon, maybe bike on the run course or do a little spin, an easy spin out on the bike course, check out the swim course, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, and all that stuff, like the websites on races have gotten really good now. So you can usually when you go on to the site see what direction the swim is, right? If it's clockwise or counterclockwise, what the course looks like. Sometimes the courses, some have closures so that you can't get on there, but you can at least usually get a sense of what's involved in the terrain of the course. So
Very
good.
much, yes.
Yeah, always good to know. And then, like how about, and Eric, maybe you can talk about this in terms of like getting to the race and figuring out like the schedule. How far in advance should you get there? Do you recommend that people pick up the packet the day before, or if they wait till race morning, what kinds of things might be included in the race packet as well?
Yeah, I think athletes want to try to make their race day as the least stressful as possible. So if they can pick up the race packet the day before or the week before, whatever it is, I would do so and go through it. And a lot of times they have some last minute rules and little hints, things to do. So definitely pick up the race packet early on and be familiar with what's going to happen that morning. On race day, I'm an early riser. So many times I'm one of the first few bikes on the bike rack. Depending on the race, if the bike rack is not individually marked for each athlete, if they're just grouped by 20 or whatever bikes, but they're not set specifically, I'll get the best spot that I think is the best spot for me will be towards the end of the rack or towards the edge of the rack. So I only have people on one side and not on both sides of my bike.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, so a race pack when you pick it up, it's always going to have some things.
Yep.
Cap, right? A specific cap. Sometimes it's by wave, sometimes everyone wears the same cap, but that's going to be in there, right? A number that you wear, usually just on the run, but this is a place to check, right? To check the rules because some races require you to wear the number on the bike as well. Never in the swim, but on the bike as
Right.
well, right? And then sometimes though, like what else? Like helmet stickers, bike
Yep.
stickers sometimes are
Helmet
also.
stickers, bike stickers, those are still pretty popular. A lot of races are maybe going away from body marking. So that's a specific event thing. So if the race does have body marking, obviously getting there earlier is nice because you're avoiding all the lines, people trying to get body marked. Um, from a seasonal perspective, I like body marking myself, or get somebody that I know just to put the numbers on my arm or my calf or whatever it is that they're doing that event, and just avoid the crowd.
Mhm.
Like I said, I like getting there early. I set up my transition early. Um, I'll walk away and then I'll come back and double check transition. And then I'll just walk away from the stress. I mean, you can see people are freaking out, stressing out in transition. So I just go, to the beach and find a little happy place and just get ready for the race itself.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
thing I forgot to mention, when you go into transition, it's very important to know which way you're coming in from the swim and going out on the bike and going out on the run. I think a lot of times beginners forget about that, and race is going on and they're like, well, which direction do I go? I would highly suggest that people have a good idea of which direction everything's flowing.
Yeah, and that's definitely like a race morning thing, I think so. We'll talk about that maybe in the next episode in some more detail, but um, whatever you can find, like on the website or talk to people in advance who've done the race just to mentally be prepared for what race morning is going to look like, I think is always helpful. Um, so I want to talk, and Jackie, I'll come back to you on this a little. We talked in the prior um, episodes about the open water swim, and practicing it. And now, so hopefully at this point, a week out, people have gotten the opportunity to be in the open water. Um, do you have like, anything that you talk people through on how they approach the open water in the morning, like any sort of rituals or tips or something? Because this now leading up to race week, hopefully you'll get a chance to swim in the actual race conditions, maybe not, but at least get one open water swim in. So this is a good time to practice that, whatever routine that you've developed. So maybe you can share some tips on what that might look like or what you'd recommend.
Definitely. Are you talking leading into the race or are you talking on race morning?
Well, what the race morning will look like. So this is,
Okay.
maybe practice, like, so you're
Okay.
practicing what race morning,
Yep.
what review you're going to go through.
So I highly recommend getting in the water before the race. I think it calms nerves and you can also get a sense of the water temperature. So it's not a shock to your system when you jump in and your heart rate's high from the pre-race nerves. Kind of see where the sun is, kind of get some sighting points, where the current is, so you'll know where to place yourself on the beach when you get in the water to start. So if there's, current going in one direction, maybe you want to start a little bit closer left versus farther right or vice versa. Um, yeah, I definitely, most swim races will allow you to get in and warm up, and I would highly recommend that. Um, yes, I think
Yeah.
that's the number one tip for sure.
Yeah. And I think,
Um,
you brought up something here, which is, well, open water swims used to be mass start. Then they went into waves, and some local triathlons still do waves. And then other ones are rolling start. So,
mhm,
I definitely recommend that you go on the website and see if you can figure out how your race is going to start. Um,
for sure.
because it's a little different. If it's rolling starts, you have to
A little more
estimate
gentle.
time,
Yeah.
right? And it's more gentle and never gets as
Yes.
hectic. It never clears out as much either, but it never gets as hectic in the water. And if
Right.
it's a group start, it just depends on how big, they group people up and stuff. So I think like especially if you're a more nervous swimmer, it helps to have a like in your mind, okay, I'm gonna start, if it's a right hand turn, I'm gonna start in the left so that I'm not in the crowds. And I'm thinking that in advance, I'm going to count to 100 when I'm swimming, like any kind of like calming
Yeah.
techniques.
And it's also good to remember for all the athletes that it doesn't matter really how experienced or how little of experience you have. Everyone at the start is very nervous, especially just it's the beginning of the morning. You don't know what's going to be happening. And so our heart rate, everyone's heart rate is high. Everyone's very nervous. And so a lot of times you get a little shock when you put your face in the water for the first time because of the nerves and the high heart rate. And if that happens, it's a good idea. Just, pull your head up, take some slow, deep breaths, and know that eventually, like after a few strokes or after you get to the first buoy, your breathing is going to settle, your heart rate's going to settle down, you're going to get into the groove. But whatever you do, like that panic feeling will go away, and just keep telling yourself, like, I just got to get out a little bit further and my heart rate will slow down. Just don't stop and turn around and quit, because things will fall into place at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I'll like having that mindset in the practice and knowing that it falls into place is okay, because then on race day, you're like, okay, I've been here. I've
Yep.
already been here.
Yep.
I know how to handle this, right? Um, I want to shift gears a little, and Eric, can I come back to you on this, which is you talked about transition, and maybe first you can say what transition is, because some people on here may not be familiar with it, and then talk a little bit about how you would set up the transition and practicing doing this before the race.
Correct. So transition is the fourth event in a triathlon, right? Everybody knows swim, bike, and run, but a lot of time can be gained or lost in transition, right? Uh, I'm from the belief of keep it simple. Obviously, don't try anything new on race day. So I remember many, many times during our camps in the past, I would go over what I used to do when I first started doing triathlons. I would literally put my shoes in the driveway and do a couple bike loops in the neighborhood, and then try to get off my bike and get in my running shoes. And I practiced that over and over and over and over again. So it became more natural. I figure out a way that I could get onto my shoes without having to touch my feet on the ground and things like that. So I think that's something important for beginners to work on is that transition. Um, you know, Going back to keeping it simple, for the swim, you would just have your swim cap and your goggles with you, maybe wetsuit if it's wetsuit legal, something to drink in between before the race starts. But when you come out of the water, peel your cap off and your goggles off. And the bike setup should just have your cycling shoes, your helmet, and maybe glasses, sunglasses. You get on the bike, and when you do your bike course, and when you get back, your running shoes and or your socks, if you're going to wear socks, should be ready to go. The socks should be rolled so you don't have to unfold socks. And every second adds up in time. And even once you put your running shoes, you don't have to stand there to get your cap on or your race belt on. You could just start moving towards the exit of transition, and it'll definitely save you some time.
Mm-hmm. And then your race belt, like, so if you want to put your number on, it's helpful to have a race belt, which is just a thin, like, elastic strip, basically,
Yeah.
that you can pin your number on. That makes things easier.
Yeah, my favorite race belt, and I think Jackie might still have one, they're actually magnetized, so you don't have to try to find a clip, and you just get them close enough, and they're super strong magnets, and they just snap right into each other.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier than trying to be like pinning your number and all, getting in the way. So, um, I mean, one thing too, I love like the keeping it simple. You go into races sometimes at the beginning and people have got their buckets and they've got their baskets, and you're like, just it gets in your way, it gets in everyone else's way. Just clear your stuff out. If you're not going to use it, nowhere near transition.
Exactly.
And I mean, one tip I also give people is have everything like unbuckled or untied, so running shoes open, bike shoes open. I mean, glasses open, helmet
Open.
Your
that's like,
helmet open and facing the right
and
direction, right?
facing the
Because
right direction. Yeah,
because how often do we see somebody biking with the helmets on backwards because they're
right.
so nervous, and they just got out of the water and everything's happening so quick. So definitely save a few steps. I mean, make sure you follow the steps so you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, because I always, like I say to people, assume that your brain's not going to work when you come out of the water. I mean, so set it up as if so that you don't have to think at all. Left shoe on the left side, right shoe on the right. I mean, that stuff, it sounds so simple, but it takes time if you just do it the wrong way, and then you get flustered and you just, you don't need that. So,
Yes.
and practicing it like that, practicing going from the bike to the run and the shoes and how you get into them quickly, because you don't want to have to sit down on the ground or bucket and to be able to put your shoes on and stuff. So,
Well, back on our old days, Jack and I, when we did camps and clinics, we would literally have people spin around the parking lot a few times, and then we would say go, and then they had to try to get to the bike and put their shoes on, which kind of mimics coming out of the water. You know, you're hyperventilating, your brain is not working properly. You know, just to help them keep it simple and follow the steps and try to get in and out of transition as smooth as possible.
yeah.
Forgot about that. That was
Yeah,
funny to
smooth is
watch.
steady and steady is fast.
I like that. That's a great idea. I mean, because I don't know how many races I've done. I'll come out of the water being like, where am I? You know, and being disoriented. And so it's just anything you can do that so that you don't have to think, I think is helpful. Um, so anything else like pre-race, you've got your lists, make sure, like I think one good way to make that is to do like think about what you're going to have in transition, like Eric just went through, right? And then write it down, make sure it's written down so that when it goes time to pack your stuff up, what if you're, if you're traveling a few days before, or if it's just race morning, so that it's ready. It's rolling. You don't want to. I showed up to one race. I'm racing for 20 years. I showed up to a race in Miami a couple of years ago and I didn't have any goggles with me. I was like, how did I do that? I forgot my goggles. And then I had to like search, like, where can I like, digging through Walmart trying to find a set of goggles, which is, yeah. So make your list, check them
Yep.
off, no
I
matter.
usually leave a note on my door that I go out to not forget my bottles, because I usually have my bottles made the night before and put them in the fridge,
Yeah.
and then I could very easily walk. Well, I did once, so that's why now I leave a note on the door, like bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good
Mm.
idea. Because you don't want to show up to a race and not have what you need. I mean, that's like a worst scenario. Usually you can find them and figure it
Yeah,
out, but you don't want to have to add the stress to the day. There's
Right.
enough. Yeah.
correct.
All right. I think we're going to wrap up with this episode now. And then when we come back, it is race day, which is what all this training has been for. So we'll come back to that soon.
Thank you.